military officers.
What if I told you that on October 25th, 2025, a secret plan was set in motion inside Nigeria's military, a plan to overthrow President Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself? This wasn't fiction. It wasn't rumor. It was real. A group of officers and civilians had come together with one goal: to end Tinubu's presidency by force. But before their plan could even begin, it was exposed. The plot collapsed, and the alleged masterminds were arrested. The coup had failed. But what came next was even more shocking. When the news broke, millions of Nigerians didn't celebrate the government's victory. Instead, social media exploded with reactions that stunned the world. Ordinary citizens openly wishing the coup had succeeded. What does it say about a country when people begin to prefer the risk of military rule over the reality of democracy? What does it reveal about Nigeria's growing anger, frustration, and exhaustion under Tinubu's leadership? In today's video, we're diving deep into the failed coup attempt, who planned it, how it was uncovered, the government's desperate response, and the chilling reaction from the Nigerian people themselves. Because behind the headlines lies a bigger question: is Nigeria reaching its breaking point? The last time Nigeria was under military rule was between 1998 and 1999, led by General Abdul Salami Abubakar. He would become the man who handed power back to the people, transferring authority to a newly elected president, Olusegun Obasanjo, on May 29, 1999. That day was meant to mark a new beginning, a promise that the dark years of military rule were finally over. Because let's be honest, those years were brutal. Under leaders like General Sani Abacha, Nigeria witnessed repression, fear, and silence. Voices were crushed, journalists disappeared, citizens lived in constant fear of their own government. So when democracy returned, it came with a vow: never again. Never again would soldiers rule from behind the barrel of a gun. But more than 2 decades later, that promise feels fragile. Since 1999, Nigeria has been ruled by civilian presidents, supposedly chosen by the people every 4 or 8 years. But here's the truth few dare to say out loud: most elections have never truly reflected the people's choice. They've been marred by manipulation, intimidation, and power plays by the political elite, the same figures who refuse to let go of the throne. And with such a tight grip on power, few ever imagined a coup could even happen again in Nigeria. In fact, just months ago, when coups swept across the Sahel region, in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, President Bola Tinubu made a calculated move. He paid a high-profile visit to the Nigerian army, shaking hands, smiling for cameras, and assuring the generals of his confidence in their loyalty. But beneath the surface, everyone knew what that visit really meant. Tinubu was trying to keep them close, to calm the storm before it ever reached Abuja. So when the news broke, it felt like a thunderclap. A few days ago, headlines across Nigeria screamed one word: coup. Authorities revealed that a plot to overthrow President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had been thwarted before it could unfold. The details were murky at first, but as the hours passed, a darker picture began to emerge. This wasn't the work of a few rogue soldiers. It was bigger. Reports suggested that both military officers and influential politicians from both the north and south had been quietly working together. Inside the corridors of power, whispers spread. Could this really be happening again? Soon after, the Nigerian Defense Headquarters stepped forward. They confirmed the arrest of 16 military officers accused of what they called unprofessional conduct. Among those detained were senior officers, men with access to critical bases, command networks, and intelligence systems. These weren't foot soldiers, they were insiders. The investigation, led by the Defense Intelligence Agency, quickly expanded. All 3 branches of the Nigerian Armed Forces were pulled in to support the probe, tracing every connection, every message, every meeting that might lead to the heart of the conspiracy. And then came the real twist. This wasn't just a military affair. The scope of the investigation extended far beyond the barracks, reaching into the civilian elite, politicians, businessmen, and possibly even members of the ruling party. Nigeria hadn't seen a story this explosive in decades. A coup had been planned. It failed, but its echoes were just beginning to shake the country. As investigators dug deeper, the story took an even darker turn. According to multiple local reports, a prominent southern politician had come under scrutiny. accused of financing the entire operation. But that wasn't all. Some of those being questioned were said to have ties to royal families and powerful political dynasties. These weren't outsiders trying to destabilize the state. They were people deeply embedded in Nigeria's elite, the kind of individuals who attend the same banquets, the same meetings, and exchange the same handshakes as the country's most powerful figures. If true, it meant the conspiracy wasn't just about soldiers plotting in secret. It might have been an inside job involving the very people sworn to protect democracy. No formal charges have been filed yet, but sources close to the Defense Intelligence Agency confirmed that surveillance, interrogations, and wiretaps are still underway to uncover every hidden layer of the plot. The identities of the 16 detained officers remain classified, but insiders say they come from multiple branches of the armed forces: the Army, Navy, and Air Force. Nigeria's security agencies are now operating at heightened alert, locking down key installations and quietly monitoring communications to prevent any chain reaction. Then came another leak. A senior source alleged that a former governor had provided funds to help organize the coup, a plot reportedly scheduled to take place on October 25th. He revealed, yes, that is true. There are civilian accomplices, including a former governor, but the extent of their involvement is still under investigation. For now, there are 16 officers involved and in custody. If this statement proves accurate, it would mean one chilling thing. The coup wasn't just a military rebellion. It was a multi-layered conspiracy, reaching from the barracks to the very heart of Nigeria's political power. The deeper investigators went, the more tangled the web became. Sources close to the probe revealed that the former civilian governor now under investigation once worked in the oil and gas sector, one of Nigeria's most powerful and politically charged industries. His exact role in the alleged coup remains unconfirmed, but investigators are zeroing in on his recent communications and financial transactions. Every call, every meeting, every unexplained deposit is now under the microscope. According to insiders, if credible links between the former governor and the detained officers are found, he will be formally summoned for interrogation. And then came another revelation. Among the 16 arrested officers, one was allegedly a brigadier general, a man of rank, respect, and reach. Another, a colonel, belongs to a family so influential that their name alone carries weight in Nigeria's power circles. When the news broke, the colonel's relatives were reportedly shaken. One family member told reporters, "Our prayer is that they are not found guilty of the allegation. This wasn't some fringe rebellion. This was power turning on itself." Local media now report that more officers have been quietly picked up for questioning, men and women linked either directly or indirectly to the coup's blueprint. And it doesn't stop with the military. Investigators are also tracking the movements of several politicians, both from the north and the south, who are suspected of playing background roles in the scheme. In the halls of government, tension is thick. Phones are being tapped. Meetings are being watched. Every whisper could be evidence. Every handshake, a clue. Because if these suspicions are true, this wasn't just an attempt to seize power. It was a potential alliance between political money, military muscle, and old family influence, the kind of combination that could shake Nigeria to its core. But this is where it gets interesting. 2 days after the news broke out, the Nigerian Defense Headquarters released a statement made by the Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General Tukur Gusau. In the statement, Tukur dismissed the reports of an alleged coup, saying that the detention of the 16 officers was linked to the cancellation of Nigeria's 65th Independence Day by the federal government, and as such, declared that the news of an attempted coup plot was false. It urged the public to disregard the misinformation being circulated by who it described as purveyors of falsehoods and enemies of the nation. The statement read, "The attention of the Defense Headquarters, DHQ, has been drawn to a false and misleading report by an online publication insinuating that the cancellation of activities marking Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary was linked to an alleged attempted military coup." The report also made spurious references to the recent DHQ press release announcing the arrest of 16 officers currently under investigation for professional misconduct. Gusau went on to say that the cancellation of the October 1st anniversary parade was purely administrative, explaining that it was meant to allow President Tinubu to attend a bilateral meeting abroad and enable troops to sustain ongoing operations against insurgency and banditry. While declaring that democracy is forever, Gusau said, "The ongoing investigation involving the 16 officers is a routine internal process aimed at ensuring discipline and professionalism is maintained within the ranks. An investigative panel has been duly constituted, and its findings would be made public." But what did the federal government have to say about this? When contacted the following day for the federal government's position on the development, the information minister responded that it was a military affair. "The federal government has no reason to doubt the military on what it has said," the minister said. "The federal government believes that the armed forces of Nigeria is committed to ensuring the territorial integrity of the country and also strengthening its fight against insecurity. The federal government commends the military, and it will continue to support them in their task of ensuring the security of Nigeria." However, according to a source with insider